Um, I'll jump right into it. I worked in the Northeast region this summer under Tamar Halevi as well as Scott King. A similar agenda, I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my projects, critical experiences, as well as diversity and inclusion and some learning and reflections. So about me, I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. My family now lives in Las Vegas, actually. My brother goes to the University of Delaware. I attend St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas, studying finance and risk management. I'm about to begin my sophomore year there. I also played tennis for our team and I had the opportunity to compete in the Elite 8 at Nationals this year. Some hobbies include raising my mom's blood pressure by riding motorcycles since I was 8 years old, and going on hikes with my little dachshund Duke. So jumping into the business, I had two projects. One focused on short-term or business, which was frontline destination certifications, and then the people or long-term project was new hires and retention. Some of my friends in the Bronx there. So frontline destination. My project focused specifically within the independent business market, working between the RSRs and DSLs through communication and follow-up every single week within the market and the office in order to improve understanding and efficiency of frontline destination through establishing strategies, some application updates, as well as targets, timelines, and teamwork. So this is the common DSL insert process, and my project focused on the act as well as the follow-up portion. As we know, frontline destination can be a little overwhelming at times, so I developed some strategies just to be able to divide and conquer and accelerate our certifications. So for targets, first the DSL would begin with enrolling all routes, and then they would target their stores with the RSR, which is very important to know that your RSR is on board for which stores you want to certify, and then following some targeting techniques that I'll further explain in the following slide. Second, timelines. This is critical to establish specific deadlines that you want your RSR and yourself to meet, and then set specific expectations for yourself and your RSR to complete each week. Finally, teamwork, the most important. So the DSL would begin by doing an in-store scorecard and then reviewing that with the RSR so they know their specific action items and what you want them to focus on in order to get that store certified. Also, strongly encourage advanced orders, which would improve communication between the RSR and store manager, as well as the RSR and RSA that could potentially be covering their routes. Finally, as we have all touched on, follow-up is very, very important. So some targeting techniques. One is to go route by route. So you can decide which RSR you want to start with and then meet with that RSR and decide what order of stores they believe would be the easiest, most efficient way to begin certifying. And then once you have completed that route, move on to the next and so on. Second would be volume. So if you think about it, the most critical stores and most time that we should be spending in are the stores that are bringing in the most volume. So you organize your district, see which stores have the highest volume, and then focus on certifying those. However, at the same time, you can rack in some small wins. So this is one store that I actually wanted to score before we had certified it, just to show that we have one of our racks in a small corner store in a deli that would be easily certifiable, and we could have those and do several of those to just keep up that momentum and that motivation for certifications. Finally is to go chain by chain. So if you prefer, you could, depending on your district and how it's distributed, you can start with one chain and then move on to the next, like 7-Eleven, Dwayne Reed, CVS, and so on. Again, starting with the highest volume stores within each chain. So with any strategical update, as we know, and the way Frito and PepsiCo is wanting to advance, I actually was able to get in touch with a lady by the name of Melissa Murphy, who has been working with headquarters to develop some potential application updates. So if these are actually implemented, which will be discussed within P10 of the App Development Team Roundtable, this will be what we will be able to move forward with. So within StoreFX On Demand, under the Benchmarks tab, you'll actually be able to identify which stores are already certified, so you know which certifications you need to maintain or which ones you need to work on. Second, under the More Options tab, is the DSL would have the ability to upload a specific planogram. Within the Bronx and a heavy independent business market, a lot of the stores don't have art shelves, they actually have wood shelves, so you don't have specific set planograms. So the DSL would be able to designate whichever planogram which would be most applicable to that store. Also, the latest scorecard would be automatically uploaded within there, so that if anyone is in that store, they can see exactly where that store is standing. Since Frito-Lay is wanting to move more into My Store Accelerator, we would actually move the DSL store call, which is the little check mark whenever you go into a store, into My Store Accelerator, which is where you'll be completing the scorecard anyways. And then any action items that that you want as a result of the scorecard will be automatically generated from the No tab after completing the scorecard. So within My Store Accelerator, as I said, action items generated from No. Those action items will then be sent directly to the One with One app under the RSR so you can follow up with them. The top action items comment box will actually be changed to just a comment section. And then finally, adding due dates to hold yourself as well as your RSR accountable to complete those tasks. And then finally, store call. So right now you can go and just hit check and not actually record what your in-store activity was. So now with these updates, you will potentially be able to hit check and then hit whether you completed a scorecard, just reviewed merchandising, or met with the manager. So moving into project 2, new hires and retention. I began this summer with calling all of our RSAs every Friday just to have a touch point with them, see if they need anything. This was the most important part of this project, one of the most important parts, because they need someone, they need a contact that they can go to and rely on every single week. Second, I also led some recruitment. Sports authorities were shutting down nationwide the beginning of August, so I went to each of their stores within our area to give their employees potential employment opportunities once their stores shut down. Third was my favorite and what I found to be the most important was establishing RSA district meetings. So instead of the RSAs attending their district meetings for whatever district they might be working for, they would be treated as if they are their own district and have meetings periodically or every period for them with more information, more applicable and relatable to being an actual RSA. Fourth was establishing a mentorship program between the RSRs and RSAs, which an RSR, if they would like to just improve their own personal growth and career, would be able to have an RSA assigned to them that they could just mentor and guide and help that transition of being a new hire. And finally, training. So through the Friday calls, I found out this is an extremely critical point that we need to improve a little bit upon. Our zone has a traditional as well as a GES building, and so we're doing everything we can to improve that training to know how to operate out of both DCs. So some critical experiences include, of course, the route rides. I was able to attend the PepsiCo headquarters up in Purchase, New York with a fellow intern, able to present at a zone business training, our Killingly, Connecticut plant visit, and then finally, throwing in these towers during push week was my favorite because a DSL came to me and said, hey, we're going to jump on the truck, we're going to go do these towers. And the RSR came to him the next week and said, thank you so much for doing that. I haven't seen a truck like this in years. Last year, that store during push week made about $250. As a result of this, just in push week, it made nearly $2,000. And that just goes to show the impact that you as a DSL can have on your employees. Some diversity and inclusion initiatives. This is myself as a fellow interns in the top left there in Long Island City. This was a PepsiCo Connect event at Purchase headquarters. We had a Bronx versus Queens softball game, which the Bronx won, and then an extremely competitive scavenger hunt with the other interns in New York, which we also won. And then we had a Dinamitas versus Takis inclusion event internally for the RSRs, just to promote Dinamitas and give them a time to connect. Finally, some learning and reflections. So moving to the Bronx from Houston, Texas is a little different. When I was at PepsiCo headquarters, an executive sponsor within HR was a guest speaker, and she mentioned a quote by Oprah Winfrey that really resonated with me. And she said, you know, anyone is willing to ride in a limo with you, but what you want are people who are willing to take the bus when that limo breaks down. And this is a trait that I've seen reflected in every single Frito-Lay employee that I've had the opportunity to work with. Is there's people willing to jump on a route even though they're a manager. We have some DSLs going up to Boston to help them run routes. You always have someone there to hold your back and stand up for you. And just remember that and always be ready to give back and give forward as well so you can build those relationships. Second was inspired by a quote of Abraham Lincoln, which says, I don't like that man, therefore I must get to know him better. It's really easy to get frustrated when you're new to a company and managing so many people, or maybe the people that are managing you. But if you just take the time to get to know someone's goals and purpose and what they're trying to achieve, then 90% of your job's already done. Finally is my favorite quote by Winston Churchill. It says, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. The courage it takes to continue is what counts." And this is the Bronx right here. Our zone services the wealthiest as well as the poorest inner city areas in our entire country. There's a lot of success and a lot of failure. There's going to be weeks where you blow push week or hit plan out of the park, and there's going to be weeks where you have routes sit or you don't hit plan. But you always have to remember that there's another week, and you have to maintain that momentum and that motivation. And that can be the most difficult task oftentimes, but it'll always be the most rewarding. So with that, I would just like to say thank you and answer any questions that you may have.